the notion of when it's talking about, okay, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth, right?
Hmm.
Okay, so
Yes.
then the rest of it, so the first two verses are a summary statement of what God is about to do.
Yes.
He's about to create the heavens and the earth. And he's about to do it when the earth is in this condition, that it's formless and void and there's
Oh, I
darkness over the
see.
surface of the deep.
Okay, so you're not saying that heaven and earth was created before the 6 days. You're saying that there was a formless earth before the 6 days.
Hmm?
Or am I understanding that
Yeah.
correctly? Okay,
Yeah.
so heaven was created during the 6 days.
Yeah. All of it is created technically during there. And
Okay.
it's a matter of everything is created from this. It's created from that which was already
This
there.
the primordial
So
soup.
it's sure to some degree.
Yeah,
Not I wouldn't put it exactly like that, but
sure.
and so the whole description of Genesis 1 is referring back to Genesis 1 2. So verse
Yes.
2. And so that's what's going on. I don't think that there's really this other creation happening prior, that Genesis 1 and 2 is simply describing like, hey, God created the heavens and the earth, and this is the state that it was in when he began to create it.
Okay. Okay, so I see your point, and I think that makes sense to me. Then the question arises, and maybe this is outside because I know this isn't exactly what you're trying to say. You're not trying to say that this view explains away like every problem, but I'm curious what you think about the state of the world then. Like, is that primordial period of time where the earth is just dark waters, is that explanatory for the age of the earth, the apparent age of the earth that we find geologically?
It is explanatory in the sense that it exists prior to day one of creation.
Hmm.
So the whole point is simply that according to the Bible, yeah, you have an indeterminate amount of time. You have no idea, because if the earth exists prior to day one, okay, so therefore you don't know when the beginning is, right?
Correct.
It's
Correct.
just indefinite. So therefore, it could be any number of things. The Bible simply just doesn't say. That's all.
But then the problem would be like you can't say so then either like dinosaurs have to be before creation or after creation because their apparent age is much older than the age which we allot. So are you saying that this doesn't really explain dinosaurs, not that before period, but that they were created after and there's some kind of age extension between those 6 days and now that would explain their creation?
What do you mean?
So, well, like,
No,
okay,
like, are you saying like, are you saying that there couldn't be animals prior, or what are you saying?
well, I'm basically trying to see if your perspective is the young Earth perspective, which is that there were dinosaurs walking around during like the Noah's Ark period, or if you're saying that they were beforehand in some kind of other creation, not walking around at the same time as humans, or if that's not at all explained by the first 6 days of creation.
Yeah, I just don't think the text really says. All I'm saying is that it's possible they could have existed prior, because the point is this: is that Genesis 1 is not a creation account of all things.
Mm-hmm.
It's just not a creation account of all things. And some people challenge me a little bit on that. But if it's a creation account of all things, are the angels created? Yes. When were
Mm-hmm.
they created? It doesn't say. Okay, so we know it's not a creation account of all things, right? And if Genesis 1 is, well, it says that the earth existed. It says the earth existed prior to day one of the 6 days of creation count. Okay, cool. So then when was it created? I don't know. In the beginning?
Yeah.
Could be created in the beginning. When was that? I don't know. It doesn't say anything else. We don't have
Okay.
a chronology of from in the beginning until day one.
Correct. No, I think you're right about that. But then I guess the question would just be your view really wouldn't be that much different actually than the young earth creationists, really. Like you'd only contest if there's some extra time there, but their argument that humans had to be walking around with dinosaurs and whatnot and what so is still valid because they were produced during the 6 days of creation, and if those are 6 literal days, then that means that dinosaurs and humans had to be walking the earth together. and they had to have been present in those early accounts.
Yeah, so it's not necessarily that way because you could have dinosaurs prior. Because that's the point is that you don't really have any
But if
knowledge
it's
of what happened
void,
prior to his first day.
the earth is formless and void, and darkness is over the deep.
Mhm.
I don't know that that makes sense to me.
Was it always that way?
It seems to infer that. It seems to infer that everything is there's perpetual darkness until the 6 days of creation begin.
It says that is the state of the world in that situation.
In the
So, but
beginning.
this is in the beginning of in the beginning of day one of the
Well,
6 days of creation.
but in the beginning is Genesis 1:1, which is what you're saying is before the 6 days of creation, right?
Yeah, yeah, but this is referring to as the summary statement of the 6 days of creation.
Okay. Interesting.
So I do think it's focused on the 6 days of creation.
Okay.
So it's the summary statement in the beginning of the 6 days of creation. In the beginning of the 6 days of creation, this is the state of the world. And are you aware that this phrase is also used in Jeremiah?
Yeah, I think I've heard that
Formless and
before.
void. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
And so
yeah.
it's the idea of the area, the city being in ruin in Jeremiah, right?
Yeah.
Everything is destroyed. And it even says the sun did not give its light. So it used the imagery of darkness as well.
Yes.
So it says tohu vabohu, right? And so it's the idea of disordered, chaotic, unruly.
So
And
is
so
would you say your extra biblical maybe theory, if I'll allow you to like exposit beyond, like, are you theorizing that it's possible that there was a whole nother creation of some type before the creation that begins in the Bible? You're saying there could have been things, animals, plants, etc., before the 6 days that begin what is created now.
see, what I'm saying is that I think that I'm fairly agnostic about most of these other issues, and that's my primary point. Is simply that the Bible doesn't say. So, like, as far as like we could theorize, okay, these are all the things that maybe happened, could have happened, and yeah, it's fine to theorize about those things. And my point is simply like this is what the Bible is saying, that there was an earth prior to the first day of the 6 days of creation. Concerning exactly what all that entails, I don't know.
Yeah.
But it could be that there would be other animals prior. It could be all those other things. And those other questions are the things that have to be answered by other people, because the point is, I just want to affirm exactly what does the Bible affirm? And then from there we can talk about other things, but the primary point is to espouse what does the Bible clearly say and what does it leave room to say? And that's where I'm saying, like, look, it leaves lots of room because there is no other talk about these other things.
That's interesting. I mean, I definitely see your point about being just agnostic on it, but I would say that when you're talking about it as a refutation to young earth creationism, I think that young earth creationism is so heavily founded on the necessity of being able to answer those specific questions of like, what about the dinosaur bones? What about the fact that the earth appears to be so much older than it is? And we have evidence that there was animals all these years back, and does it mean that the scientific theory of evolution has to be impossible so that it aligns with how humans were created in scripture? Like, I think all of those questions remain unanswered, and if you're saying, yeah, I'm okay with that, that's the perspective that we just take here, then fine, I guess that makes sense.
Well, I'm saying, like, from a biblical perspective, you can't answer those questions.
Yeah. Well,
I'm just saying, like, I think it's undetermined.
Sure. I think there's an extent to which you could say that it's possibly inferable. So obviously the most obvious analogy that's always used is the Trinity, which is not taught in the Bible, but heavily inferred from reading the Bible. So I think that the same is true sort of about some of these things. Like, you can infer from the Bible, some things about creation and the age of the earth, and like, maybe I think it's worth talking about that's possible that you could infer some of those things based on what's there.
So I think that you can hold my position and completely be a young earth creationist.
Yeah.
That's, I mean, yeah, I'm not saying that my position is incompatible with young earth creationism, but what my position is doing is that it's responding to the young earth creationist argument that this is the only way you can read the Bible and
Yeah.
be true to the text.
That's a great point.
And what I'm saying is that verses 1 and 2, you cannot read them as part of day one.
That
You
makes
can't
sense.
read them as part of day one. And there are several reasons why. Because the literary structure of Genesis 1 cuts the first two verses out. Each day does begin, and God said, and ends with, and there was morning, or there's evening and morning, except for day 7, right?
Yeah.
Day 7 has
100%.
no evening and morning, right?
Yep.
And so the point here is not to say like, oh, young earth creationism is false, or that you can preach or teach an old earth based on the Bible. I would say the same thing. The Bible does not say the earth is old according to scripture.
Yep.
Right. So then it kicks it into other things to be able to explain or talk about where do dinosaurs come from?
Yeah.
Were dinosaurs and man on the earth at the same time? And I'm just saying the Bible doesn't say, on a young earth view, the Bible has to be saying that.
Yeah. That's a great point. No, that's an excellent point.